Joining me right now with reaction in this Sunday morning exclusive is the Speaker of the House, Congressman Kevin McCarthy. And Mr. Speaker, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Congratulations to you after all of this work you've put into this. How are you feeling this morning after the president signed the bill into law?
I feel good, Maria, because it's the first time that we're finally spending less than we spent the year before. This is the largest cut in American history. You know, if you look at the Congressional Budget Office, or if you look at the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, it shows that more than $2.1 trillion is going to be cut over the next 10 years. And think about where we've come from. The president said he would never negotiate with us, that he would only raise the debt ceiling with no cuts whatsoever, or to raise taxes. There are no taxes, there's no new government programs. We actually got more than you thought in the process that we could get to this point. So it's not perfect, but it is a beginning of turning the ship. Now we've got to do the rest of the job.
Yeah, and I know that I said congratulations at the top of the show because you had to wrangle lots of different personalities and lots of different values within your membership, and you were able to do that and get everybody in line. But I want to go through some of the criticism of this bill because some people say it really was different. For example, you had in your bill that passed the House, Limit, Save, Grow, an ability to have work requirements for Medicaid recipients. That did not end up in the bill that the president signed. You had in your bill the ability to rescind that $80 billion of IRS funding that the president wants to hire 87,000 agents. That wasn't in the bill the president signed. It was $1.9 billion of the $80 billion.
Well, that's not true, Maria. Maria, you're saying things that are not true. So let's first walk through what's in the bill, because I can always vote against a bill for what's not in it. But let's see what's in it. First of all, in Limit, Save, Grow, we said we wanted to take the spending levels back to 2022. Well, we actually increased defense and increased the veterans, but non-defense with veterans out, we took it below the 22 level. That gave Democrats a lot of problems. We wanted to repeal all the IRS agents. They've already put that money in there. We repealed the $1.4 billion they would spend on hiring new agents this year, so no new agents are being hired. But we also repealed another $20 billion going in the future, what we can redirect. I think that money would be better used instead of hiring IRS agents than hiring Border Patrol agents. So that's a whole debate that forward. But we already got more than $21 billion. We'll come back to next year. No new IRS agents are hired. This is scored as the largest cut. I heard you earlier say, yeah, but more Democrats voted for it. Let's just put this in perspective. When Republicans only had the House and the Democrats had the White House, on average, only 24% of Republicans voted for it. This was at 67%, 3 times as much. But you also look at the story of the last 10 debt ceilings where Republicans had the administration. Only 65% of Republicans voted for it. So even higher level than that. So that really shows the truth about this. But Democrats will vote for debt ceilings, Republicans will not. But we hit a 2/3 mark. The thing you want to look at is which Democrats voted against this. AOC, Bernie Sanders, the progressives. Why did they vote against it? Because we did get work requirements in welfare reform. Did we get it in everything? No. But we got it in welfare that puts people back to work, the core of what we looked for.
But to be clear, the bulk of that money in the IRS, which was your priority, which was conservatives' priorities, they do not want this president to hire 87,000 agents. The bulk of that money is still in the Inflation Reduction Act, and he could use that. So you're talking about the $20 billion over the following year. To be clear, the bulk of that money is still in the bill that the president signed. And then there's the defense spending.
Okay, Maria, pause for one moment. Maria, pause for one moment. That was already in law. We do not have the Senate. We do not have the presidency, but we just stopped them from hiring any IRS agents. And we also took another $20 billion going into the future. And now we only have the House. So we need the Senate and the presidency. The next time we'll address this, we have an opportunity to win the Senate and the presidency. So what's interesting to me is that you're going to argue sometime in the future when you stopped it today. So if we were strong today with a 5-seat majority in the House, think about how strong we will be when we have the Senate and the White House. It's interesting to me if we had a success today that's not good enough for something in the future. I didn't say this was perfect, but I stopped any IRS agent from being hired today.
Which
no
is
one's
good
getting
news.
hired. So I think that would be good enough. Instead, what would be the option, Maria? To have a clean debt ceiling and let them hire IRS agents and not get the $2.1 trillion cut, or the work requirements, or the NEPA reform, or be able to strengthen the military but cut the non-defense lower than 2022? If you want to have a perfect legislation, even when you have a majority of Republicans in the House and Senate and the presidency, we never had this. This is a bigger cut with one House.
Yeah. Congressman, I want to get your take on the appropriations process here, because I wonder if Chuck Schumer is going to be able to blow all of this up by the time any of this gets to the Senate in terms of the power of the purse that the Republicans are always talking about. Let's talk about the rules around this. If you get your work done and you deliver the 12 appropriations bills on time, then it goes to the Senate. Can't Chuck Schumer sit on this and let it stall? And then at the end of the day, if you're trying to hold back money, for example, for the FBI headquarters, that they want $3.5 billion to have a new headquarters bigger than the Pentagon, can't Chuck Schumer say, well, we're not going to get our work done, so we go back to prior levels? There you go. They get their money for the headquarters.
Well, Maria, that won't be the case. But first, let's see, instead of worrying about what's going to happen in the future, let's deal with what's in front of us today. I have watched time and again Republicans and Democrats in the House not do their job. I've watched on your show when I come on here and rally against these omnibus bills that are being passed for $1.7 trillion that are sitting before us right before Christmas. What we were trying to do is change the structure of Washington. So if Washington doesn't do their job, what are the consequences? Where can the American people stand up? So it doesn't matter if it's Chuck Schumer, it doesn't matter if it's myself. If we do not pass the fundamental responsibility we have at 12 appropriation bills, cut 1% across the board. It doesn't, and to be fair in law, whatever the current ratings are, whatever the current score is, you cut 1%. So you know what happens then? It doesn't matter of what position you like. Everybody gets cut if you don't do your job. So it creates a new structure that forces Congress to do their job.
If you get that 1% cut, if you get to that point where you've got to get that 1% cut in, does defense take a bigger hit than other spending?
Maria, no. Everybody on the board gets 1% across the board. So one thing I have found, that if somebody wants to vote no, they can always think, well, what happens if something happens in the future? I'm looking at today. If I took that approach, the president said he would never even talk to me about raising the debt ceiling. So should I have just quit and let him raise a clean debt ceiling? Right. Or should we have been able to take the victories we could today and come back tomorrow?
Listen, I know you have a victory. I said it at the top of the show. Congratulations. I've got to get your take on the FBI, because here too, you've got pushback. You want this document from Christopher Wray. He says he's going to deliver it tomorrow. If he does not allow the entire committee to see it, where are we? What happens then?
Well, again, Maria, let's look at where we first started. When we realized that there was a document, we sent a subpoena. He did not want to comply with the subpoena. I called the director and told him, I need this subpoena. We have the responsibility to oversee the FBI. A constitutional responsibility. If you do not send this, we will hold you in contempt. Last week, I was actually on Fox and Friends that the deadline came, and I spoke directly to Commissioner Wray that I will move contempt. He then changed his mind that he would let the chairman and the rankers see the document and bring it to the House. That is not good enough. That is also not good enough for the Secretary of State to think you're only going to show one member. We have a responsibility oversight. If they do not comply and allow every person on oversight, Republican or Democrat, that's their responsibility as members of Congress, to see this document, I will move contempt charges against the director. And you brought another issue up that I think is very important here. The FBI wants a new headquarters. If you look at, in today's dollars, what the Pentagon costs is about $900 million. They want to spend roughly $4 billion to start.
Wow.
4 times this. I do not think that's the best use of our money. I also wonder, do we need one big, large FBI building? And does it need to be back in Virginia? Or should it be in Maryland? Or should it be in Texas if you're doing cybersecurity or others? The president himself is fighting a bill I passed to bring federal workers back to work. 50% of federal workers are not coming in. I think it's responsible that they come in and do their job. Well, if that's the argument, wouldn't it be better if we had smaller offices across the country where FBI agents could help local law enforcement to solve human trafficking, to solve cybersecurity? I think they have a lot of challenges here, and this is going to be a big responsibility and oversight of Republicans in Congress in dealing with appropriations. We just had a large victory to turn the ship and begin to turn the ship. We've got so much more work to do. But the one thing you learn about me, Maria, I never give up on the American people, and I'm not going to give up now.
All right, a feisty Speaker of the House this morning. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Thank you, Maria.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade.